Craig Kimbrell is back with the Atlanta Braves, and he might still have something left in the tank. Let's talk about it. Yes, welcome on in to Braves Today for Wednesday, March 19th. Your source of news, notes, and updates on your Atlanta Braves. I'm your host, Lindsey Crosby. You can follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky at Crosby Baseball. You can follow the show on Twitter, Braves_today. We have a Facebook page and an Instagram as well. And you can find all of my written work, bravestoday.com. That's the Braves Today Substack, as this is both a podcast and a newsletter. Coming up on the show later this week, we'll be dropping our final predictions for what the opening day roster should look like. That's something where there's been a lot of changes recently, right? We're not 100% sure who will be on the roster, but I have some pretty decent ideas. And we'll drop that prediction towards the end of the week because we're assuming guys will find out officially before the team prepares to leave on Sunday for Arizona for 2 games against the Cubs. I want to talk about some of the hitters that have been doing well and not hitting well in spring training. But first, we've got to talk about Craig Kimbrell. The Atlanta Braves signed Kimbrell to a minor league deal yesterday. Not been officially announced by the team, but everybody's confirmed it, so it's there. He'll get a $2 million salary if he's on the major league roster. He is going to start the year in Gwinnett to get prepared, and then at some point in time, you would think would come up, similar to Brian McCann. See, former Braves thing. James McCann, the catcher, who signed with the Braves, he'll get a $2 million salary when he makes the majors. He's also starting in Gwinnett to get ready from not having a spring training. And there's a couple thoughts here on Craig Kimbrell. The first one is that it is exciting that Craig Kimbrell is back with the Braves. I don't care, as cynical as people might get about what he's done recently, and we're going to get to that, about the struggles and all of that stuff. It is still really cool to see Craig Kimbrell back in an Atlanta Braves uniform. The first time they play that song in Truist Park, I'm going to have a moment, okay? The Braves took him in the 3rd round in 2008. That was the second time they had drafted him. They took him in the 33rd round in 2007. He's out of Huntsville, Alabama, so he's in that Braves demographic. They got him out of community college. Again, 2008 in the 3rd round. He debuted in 2010, so he was not in the minors very long. And from when he debuted until he was traded after the 2014 season in Atlanta, Craig Kimbrell picked up 12 WAR, 15 wins, 186 saves across 289 innings, had an ERA of 1.43, struck out 476 batters in 289 innings. He was a 4-time All-Star. He was Rookie of the Year in 2011. He was in the top 10 of Cy Young finishing 4 years, which for a reliever, big deal. And he was a 3-time MVP finisher. And I would argue that was the best stretch of his career. He had flashes different places, right? His second year in Boston was very good. Very nice kind of workload, 69 innings, 1.43 ERA, 35 saves, 5-0 record. But that was the best stretch of his career. That Craig Kimbrell is not who Atlanta has signed. Craig Kimbrell went 7-5 with a 5.33 ERA for the Orioles last year. He picked up 23 saves. And if I remember this right, he was DFA'd before the season was over, despite having a $12 million salary with them last year. They paid $1 million to buy out his contract. Yeah, he was cut on like September 24th. He was released. And the issue for Craig Kimbrell is his first half and his second half were significantly different. And the first half, Craig Kimbrell is a useful bullpen piece. The second half, Craig Kimbrell is not. So in the first half, Craig Kimbrell pitched in 39 games. He got 35 and a third inning, so he's not really going more than an inning at this point in his career. 6-2 with a 2.80 ERA, picked up 23 saves, struck out 53 in his 35 innings. 3 homers allowed, 16 walks. Opponents hit 150 against him with a 250 slug in the first half of the season. In the second half of the season, he was 1-3 with a 10.59 ERA. Like, when people see that overall he had a 5.33, they think that he just struggled a little bit consistently. No, he was 2 completely different people in the first half and the second half. And again, the first half guy is worth at least $1 million on your roster, pitching every couple days. The second half guy is literally not rosterable. They were a playoff team, and they cut him in September. He pitched 17 innings with 20 earned runs allowed. He had 20 strikeouts, but he had 15 walks. Now, small sample size, 17 innings. It's like us drawing final conclusions from spring training, except this was all major leaguers. But still, a terrible trend. And so the question now is, what is Craig Kimbrell going to do for the Atlanta Braves? Can he make the majors? And what kind of role can you use him in? And I think the questions you have for Craig Kimbrell come down to 2 things. This is what Atlanta has to do to make Craig Kimbrell a major league reliever again in 2025. Okay? Thing 1 is figure out the velocity. Okay? Second half of his career, his velocity has been down, right? He finished 2018, the month of September in 2018, he was throwing 98.3 miles an hour average on his fastball. The highest that he got in 2019 was 97 miles an hour. And it's been consistently closer to 95 than 97, 98 in the back half of his career. But in 2024, in no month did he average 95. The best month he had was May, where he averaged 94.6. So again, he finished 2023 throwing 96. He opened 2024 throwing 94. What happened? Can you figure that out? And it's not like he was just throwing 94 all year and he was fine. It got worse throughout the year. In August 2024, he was throwing 93 miles an hour, where again, he opened at 94. He was throwing 92.9 in August of 2024. Coincidentally, his fastball allowed a 273 batting average, and he got lucky there because the expected was a 304, and a 727 slug on that fastball in August. Because again, he was throwing 93 miles an hour. So thing 1, can you figure out the velocity? Can you get him to the point? You're not going to get him back to throwing 98. That's not going to happen. But rather than averaging 93, 94, can you get him closer to that 95 that he was throwing in 2023? Because again, he was good in 2023. He wasn't the Craig Kimbrell of old, but with Philly, he was an all-star. 8-6, 3.26 ERA, 23 saves. Really nice sample size here, 69 innings. Struck out 94 with 28 walks. Did allow 10 homers, a career high. But he was he wasn't a closer, but he was a useful orchestration. He wouldn't be a closer if that was the guy you had with a 3.26 ERA on this team where you have Raisel Iglesias, but he could be a 7th inning guy, right? He could be a guy you could use later in the game. So thing 1, can you figure out the fastball velocity? Can you figure out what happened? Can you get him back to not even career norms? Can you get him back to where he was last year? Thing number 2, and something that I've wondered about with Craig Kimbrell for a while, thinking about how Atlanta does things, right? What they do with relievers and pitchers and things like that. Can they get him to throw the knuckle curve more? Think about Pierce Johnson. Atlanta got Pierce Johnson from Colorado, and what did they do? They significantly ramped up his curveball usage. Is there a scenario here, like Craig Kimbrell last year threw 47 sweepers as well? It's a thing. He's had it for a couple years now. He used it a little bit. He threw 5 changeups, which he had to get a dude out. That's fine, whatever. But he still was 65% fastball. And if he's throwing 93 miles an hour and he's throwing 65% fastballs, unless he's Dylan Lee, likely it's not going to work like he expects it to. Can you get him to throw more knuckle curves? I don't expect it to be a 65% knuckle curve kind of situation. But would they push him to do an even split? Would it be 45-45? And then maybe throw the sweeper a little bit more as a change of pace and a changeup or two a game? Could it be that? Just more than just the four-seamer. He can't be four-seamer heavy in 2025 if he's throwing 93, 94 miles an hour. So, let's see what Atlanta does with Craig Kimbrell in Gwinnett. Either way, it is going to hit so hard when he first walks into Truist Park and that music hits. I'm gonna have a moment. And I know I am. I hope I'm in the press box for it so I have to keep it in and be quiet about it, but it's gonna be cool. And it's entirely possible that, again, he is a actual contributor to the pen. His projections this year via Steamer, 3.80 ERA, 3.83 fielded independent pitching, still expected to strike out like 1/3 of the dudes he faces. He can be a valuable reliever, but he's not the Craig Kimbrell in Atlanta that you remember. And it's important to know that. In just a second, we had a listener request about the offense. We've talked so much about pitching in spring. How is the offense doing? Who's hitting and who is not? We'll break that down next, right here on Braves Today. But first, today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Chinook Seedery. If you're, like me, a baseball fan, you probably love sunflower seeds. Players, managers, fans, everybody likes to eat. It's like peanuts and sunflower seeds are the things you eat at ball games. Chinook Seedery, Chinok, ChinookSeedery.com has the biggest and best seeds on the market. Tons of flavor, just a pinch of salt, and they're incredibly unique flavors. They have the original that you're used to. They have Bobby Witt Jr.'s signature flavor of lemon pepper, jalapeno ranch, Parmesan and pepper, cinnamon toast, dill pickle, hatch chili, and smokehouse barbecue. Tons of great flavors. Go check them out. ChinookSeedery.com. Promo code BRAVES gets you 10% off your order. Again, ChinookSeedery.com. Promo code BRAVES for 10% off your order. And shout out to our friends at Chinook Seedery for sponsoring Braves Today. Welcome back to Braves Today. Lindsey Crosby talking about the offense in spring. A little quick kind of update. If you're not, do us a favor, subscribe both on YouTube and on audio. YouTube, we're trying to get to 4,000 by opening day. We're at 3,000, as of time of recording, 3,879 subscribers. We're trying to get to 4,000 by opening day. 4K for opening day is a fun little rhyming tagline that we have for this. So help us out. Subscribe to the show. Send it to a friend if they're not subscribed. Let's get to 4K by opening day. And if you want to, BravesToday.com. Feel free to sign up over there as well. Okay, listener request. Who is hitting and who is not hitting in spring? And it's really, we're going to restrict this to the starters. And what I'm going to do is we're going to look at who is hitting and do we think it's sustainable and what does this mean for 2025? We're in 2025, I'm sorry. This is 2025. I don't know how I don't know that. And then we're going to look at who's not hitting and if we are worried or not about it. So, when you look at just the starters, right? And I'm trying to find guys with decent sample sizes here. So most of these guys have had, 25, 30 at-bats, something like that, right? We're not going to go with anybody here. I think the floor I put on this was 30, right? So I have a note on Jurickson Profar in the not hitting section, but he's had 12 at-bats, right? 16 plate appearances. All right. When you look at expected starters and major league regulars who are hitting, the number one guy on that list is prospect Drake Baldwin. Makes you feel good about him being able to adjust to the major leagues as soon as opening day. He is hitting .333, so he is 10 for 30, 4 runs, 3 RBI, and here's what I really like. 6 walks to 2 strikeouts. So not only is he hitting, he's not chasing a lot of stuff. He's being patient. He's drawing his walks. He's been on base 16 times. And I say that, I have not checked to see if he was hit by a pitch, so it could be more than 16, but we're going with 16 times. He's been on base 16 times in 36 plate appearances. You'll absolutely take that. That is a .444 on base. So I feel really good about the fact that at least some of those have come against major league starters. Granted, he's getting his work in, or guys getting their work in and stuff, but some of those have come against major league starters. So it makes you feel like his adjustment to the majors should not be as rocky as it could be. Now, the caveat here is I don't know how much mental energy and work they're spending on game planning for the pitchers. I'm sure that there's some of it, right? Hey, we need to be mindful, this guy's batting third, etc. But it's almost certainly not as intense as it would be during the regular season. So when he has that additional mental load, is he still able to hit as well as he's hitting now? I don't expect him to bat over 300 in the majors. That's just, I don't know if I've seen a catcher in my lifetime bat over 300 in the majors. Maybe for a stretch, but not like for a full season. But it makes me feel good about if he's batting .333 in spring through 36 plate appearances, that he should be able to transition to the majors at least okay. And again, worst case scenario, it's a couple week sample and then Sean Murphy's back and Baldwin's back to Gwinnett. So there you go. Number 2, surprisingly, Brian De La Cruz. He has 33 at-bats, 36 plate appearances, and he is 11 for 33. So he's also batting .333, similar to Drake Baldwin. Just like Baldwin, he has 4 runs and 3 RBI. He does have a more even distribution of walks to strikeouts, 3 walks and 3 strikeouts. While Brian De La Cruz has no home runs, he does have 3 doubles. He also has a stolen base, which is fun, right? And so I don't know in spring the full split of lefty versus righty and all of that, but you can see how on opening day, going into the season with a platoon of Brian De La Cruz and Jared Kelenic is not the worst plan in the world. And at least one of these guys is hitting really. We'll get to Jared Kelenic in the next section, unfortunately. But I don't expect him to bat .333 all year. Same situation to Baldwin. But the fact that he's come in and he's hitting well in spring makes you feel like he's primed to rebound, because after the trade deadline, he was one of the worst hitters in baseball last year. So you feel good that he's able to at least do okay in spring so far, and we'll see what happens. Center fielder Michael Harris. He's another one of those guys. He's slightly behind the first 2. He's batting .324, 11 of 34, 2 homers. So he's this first guy on this list to actually have extra base hit, or to actually have home runs. 2 home runs and a double in his 11 hits. He has scored 4 runs. He's driven in 4. In Michael Harris fashion, he's not getting on base a lot outside of those hits. He has 1 walk to 6 strikeouts. He has stolen 2 bases, which is a dimension of his game that was not around last year because of the hamstring issue. I want to say when he came back from the hamstring, he only attempted a handful of steals the entire rest of the year. I like the fact that he's running a little bit in spring, because especially with Ronald Acuna Jr. being out to start the year, he is the member of the starting lineup. In the starting lineup, he is the number 1 stolen base threat. It is unfortunate that it's not going to be a situation where he leads off and Profar bats second, so that Profar's behind Acuna when Acuna comes back. It's something where it looks like they're going to bat Profar 1 and then just bump everybody down a spot when Ronald is back. So Harris is still batting down there in the bottom half of the lineup. But he's having a good spring so far. Defensively, he's looked good as well. Zero concerns here. The fourth member of the starting offense that's hitting really well in spring is third baseman Austin Riley. He's hitting .290. He's 9 for 31. He does have a home run. He has 3 doubles, 2 run, 2 RBI here, 3 walks to 9 strikeouts. It's really been a lot of, not a lot of boom or bust with Austin Riley, but 9 strikeouts, not the highest on the team, but it's one of the highest for expected starters on opening day. There are guys who have struck out more than him. Sandy Leon has 22 at-bats and 12 strikeouts. Garrett Cooper has 32 at-bats and 13 strikeouts. But for expected starters on opening day, Austin Riley is up there in the strikeouts. Came back from the hit by pitch on the hand, terrified all of us. He's okay. I do feel like, provided that, and this is again all small sample size stuff here, provided the whiffs don't extend into the season, and there is the caveat of he's not playing every day in spring, so he's not necessarily, the timing could be a little bit funny, could be a little bit off, whatever. Provided that doesn't extend, he is poised to have a good day or a good season in 2025. I was curious. I was trying to figure out, when I had this idea, how to delineate between the hitters who were doing well and the hitters who were not. Like, what batting average, hits cut off would make the decision, like, would delineate good and bad. These guys made the decision for me. We'll break it down next, right here on Braves Today. Final segment of Braves Today on Wednesday, March 19th, looking at the offensive players who have been doing well and not doing well in spring. And again, they made this decision for me because the top 4, again, Drake Baldwin, Brian De La Cruz batting .333, Michael Harris batting .324, Austin Riley batting .290. Everybody else is clearly on the other end of the spectrum, okay? You've got 2 guys right here who have remarkably similar stat lines, by the way, who are batting .212. That's the drop from starter to starter, goes from .290 at Austin Riley to .212 for both Matt Olson and Marcell Ozuna. Both of those guys, going into today's action, are 7 for 33 with 2 home runs. Olson has 5 runs and 5 RBI. Ozuna has 3 runs and 6 RBI. And then Olson has both walked a little more and struck out a lot more. Okay, Olson has 4 walks to 7 strikeouts. Marcell Ozuna has 3 walks to 4 strikeouts. And when I think about who worries me and who I'm not worried about, I'm not worried about Marcell Ozuna. Not only was his 2024 so good, you probably don't need to worry about it, but everything but the first month of 2023 was so good that he's coming off of this almost 2 full season stretch of dominance. I'm not worried about Marcell Ozuna. It feels like he's going to figure it out. He's going to be fine when the season gets here and these stats can start to stabilize after a month or whatever. Matt Olson has proven to be a streaky kind of hitter. And it's only because of the finish to his season last year that he had respectable numbers. He hit .247 last season with 29 homers and 98 RBI, which, again, that homer total was a huge drop from his MLB leading 54 in 2024. And when you look at his splits last year, Matt Olson in the first half hit .230, in the second half hit .271. But it really was September that carried Matt Olson's entire season. He hit .319 in September. And in August and September together, he had 12 of his homers. And his OPS in those months, .911 and .954. He's shown to be a streaky guy. And this is after a July where he hit 172 with a 612 OPS. I am a little bit concerned that Matt Olson is going to start off slow and is going to start off in a slump, and we're going to have to try to figure it out. Are we going to have to juggle the lineup? Because they've indicated he's going to be batting like cleanup, right? Again, not worried about Ozuna. Jared Kelenic, 156. He's 5 of 32. 2 runs, 2 RBI, 4 walks to 9 strikeouts. The thing for Jared Kelenic is also a streaky hitter, right? And he started off hot. He had a double, triple, 2 homers in spring, and a lot of those were in like his first couple hits of the year. So it is a little bit like 4 of his 5 hits have been for extra bases, but he's only had 5 hits in 32 at-bats, 13 games he's played in, 4 walks to 9 strikeouts. It's not ideal. Now, I do think this one's not as worrisome as the rest for a couple reasons. One, you have Ronald Acuna Jr. coming back. Again, I've talked about this ad nauseum. May 2nd is the date that I was told he is committed to being in the lineup on May 2nd to when the Dodgers come to town. It may obviously be earlier than that, but that is his goal, is May 2nd. It's what, a month and a week of Jared Kelenic in there, and it's Kelenic platooning, right? Brian De La Cruz is going to be there as well, and he's batting .333. Worst case scenario, you can just play Brian De La Cruz more and Jared Kelenic less. So I'm not as worried about this one. Ozzie Albies is batting .133. He's 4 for 30 with a run scored, 2 walks to 6 strikeouts. Weirdly, I'm not worried about Ozzie either. Maybe it's the fact it's an odd number year. I don't know, but I'm not worried about Ozzie like I am worried about Jared Kelenic or Matt Olson. I can't explain it. I don't know why. I'm just not. It feels like he's going to be fine. He's going to want to rebound after a tough 2024 where he missed a bunch of time. Doesn't bother me. Speaking of, right here's where Profar would slot in. He's 2 for 12. Again, 2 runs, 4 walks, 3 strikeouts. He just has so little time because of the wrist injury that it's not significant at all, right? And then bringing up the rear, as you all could have expected and predicted and guessed, Orlando Arcia. He is 2 for 26 in spring. That is an .077 batting average. 2 RBI, 3 walks to 2 strikeouts. And there's a couple things here that I hate about this. One, it sucks that this dude is like your starter. It's just, he's .077 in spring, and we all know he's the starting shortstop on opening day. It's frustrating, right? The other part that is frustrating about this is Nick Allen is hitting. Nick Allen is 11 for 25 with a home run. 5 runs, 3 RBI, 2 walks to 2 strikeouts. He's batting .440 with an 1121 OPS. That is what's frustrating about this, is Nick Allen has been doing so well while Orlando Arcia has been doing so bad, and we all know who will be the starting shortstop on opening day. It's frustrating. At this point, I don't know what Atlanta does. Maybe you do see Nick Allen playing more often, and it's more of, not necessarily a timeshare, but it is more of a legitimate multiple guys at the position. I do think you're in a position where you can pinch hit for Orlando Arcia more often, right? You can throw Brian De La Cruz in as a pinch hitter in whatever game, and then you can stick Nick Allen in at shortstop. I do think that happens a lot more this year because they just can't continue to let Orlando Arcia kill them with runners in scoring position. So we'll see what happens. This has been Braves Today for Wednesday, March 19th. Again, you're listening on audio. Do us a favor, leave us a 5-star review. If you're on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell. We are trying to get to 4K by opening day, and we outside shot, but we can do it. I believe in this happening. Until next time, this has been Braves Today.